Hi guys, Geoffrey here. So before I begin this video, I want to give a bit of background into Bronson's story here. So Bronson started off in a position where he was thousands of miles apart from his partner. And anytime he tried to initiate any contact, send messages, have conversations, it was shot down instantly. I mean, there was zero contact, zero communication, very, very high resistance to the point where he is now, where he's changed himself so massively, where he's changed the way he talked in a massive way as well. Different programming in his mind to the point where she's becoming more and more open to him, albeit slowly. Now, this is not his endpoint yet. As we'll talk about in this video, there's no such thing as a point of reconciliation, okay? There's just different levels of a thriving relationship. And so just like what we did with Thomas, this is what we did with David Duran, and also just what we did with Luke Phillips. This is gonna be a midpoint interview, showing you that the process in the middle, while you're reconciling, and the process when you have reconciled, should never and does not change. And it really doesn't matter how dire you think your situation is, or how difficult it is, how hopeless it is. The processes remain the exact same. You know, if you look at any of my client stories, they're in way different and very unique, dire situations, but they all have the same remedies, which is creating safety, making the same internal shifts, etc. So let us show you what we're going to talk about in this video, how Bronson got from this very dire state to where he is today in this video. So let's do it right now, guys. Hey everyone, Geoffrey here, and today we have Bronson. Bronson, I freaking love your name. I wish my name was Bronson, not Geoffrey, spelled in a terrible and difficult way. So we've done this kinds of interviews quite a bit now. We've done this with Luke. We've done this with also Michael as well, where I want to paint a picture for someone who started out in a very, very dire situation, in a very difficult, and a lot of people would say impossible situation. And through focusing on the processes, how even through an impossible situation, how they made it not impossible through genuine growth. And I also want to paint a picture here of how things are like in the middle of the journey as well. An honest look into the middle of the journey. And I make these videos because I am trying to show just how confident we are of the processes. That if you just follow the processes, yes, you can look at the processes before reconciliation or after reconciliation. That process never changes. It never stops. It's never unique. The approach to reconciling in a relationship is always the same. And so I'm going to stake my claim here in saying that, Bronson, this is the midpoint interview. We're going to have an endpoint interview. And I want people to see just how the processes never, ever, ever change. So let's start to paint a picture here of what we're talking about. I guess when you first met me, Bronson, and paint a picture even before you met me, what were things like between you and your partner?
Yeah, so my partner, she was very passive resistant. Like about a year ago, she told me that, you know, she's a little depressed and she doesn't really know what's going on. And she was actually apologizing to me. She's like, I'm sorry, I've kind of treated you the way I have been the past year and a half. And usually when, you know, I interpret that as she just needs some space to sort her emotions out. And, you know, about 6 months later, she got home from a deployment and she realized like these issues that she had been dealing with, you know, she just didn't want to go through with them with me. She just felt like I just didn't understand her. I couldn't process or interpret like what she was feeling. And, you know, it made me feel pretty insecure and inadequate as a partner. And so things started to spiral out of control in that way, if that makes sense.
And I think so she came back, basically, she said, I'm kind of feeling depressed. I need to sort things out on my own. And you thought, okay, great. Yeah, sort things out on your own. Come back when you're ready. But then when she came back, she was like, I'm not in love with you anymore. I don't want to keep having this relationship anymore. And I think that blindsided you quite a bit.
Big time, yeah.
And I think I want to pause here, Bronson, because this is something very important for people to understand. You know, we often say no situation is ever unique. right? Safety is always the root of all relationship issues. A lot of partners, before they desire divorce, before they do whatever, they will say to you, I need some time to myself. I'm feeling unfulfilled. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling anxious, whatever it is. A lot of guys hearing that would go, yeah. Trying to be like appearing like they're alpha, whatever it is. They'll go, yeah, good, take some space. Whenever you're ready, you come back to me. Right.
Yeah.
Thinking that this giving them this freedom is a good thing. But that should have been your first red flag, because that shows you that, okay, sure, your partner could be depressed. She could be going through a midlife crisis. She could be going through all these things. But the real problem, again, is that there's not enough safety to go through it with you. So for anyone listening, if your partner, if she has a problem, if she's facing some things, and she's not going to you about it, that should be your first red flag. That should be your first red flag to say that safety is not established and things are going to go really quickly downhill from here.
Yeah. No, it's very true. I was like, oh, I'm going to just, it's not about me. Like, I don't have to work on anything. She's like, I don't want help or whatever. I'm like, cool. I'm just going to let things work themselves out, which I've never gotten anything I've wanted by just letting things flow. Like, nothing good in my life has happened because I didn't do anything about it. Like, I've always worked hard. So in hindsight, it seems silly that I would think that way.
But I think the other difficult part too is, and I think this is going to the next part of your story, is that when we say, for example, hey, when your partner does not want to work on things with you, don't just do nothing or do something. But you go to the other extreme often when you do too much, when you do too much needy things. And this is, I think, what happened to you too, where you found that out. I guess describe what happened here. I'll let you describe it.
No, so when she started dropping these bombs, finally, where it's like, actually, I've lost respect for you. I don't love you anymore. Like, I feel like it's unfair that, like, I'm putting you through this. I feel like, we should get separated. It felt like the humane thing to do in her eyes. I immediately reversed course violently, to like try to fix what was happening, because I did care about her, and I realized, like, my approach of just letting things float by. I was like, oh, I need to figure out what's going on, which, because I didn't understand how to interpret what she was going through, my tactics, and they were tactics, and advice I was getting was changing day by day as I'm going through, like, scrambling to figure out what's going on, getting advice from friends, family, definitely like YouTube and the internet. And it just made things go even worse, because all of a sudden the person that she's living with is like very inconsistent, emotional, needy. I was interrogating her like crazy. And it just spiraled out of control even more because of that. I don't know if that resonates or makes sense to you. So yeah.
It does resonate. And I think this is kind of the journey for a lot of people in the beginning. We always say, do you mind if we remove the vibration of the phone, Bronson?
Yeah. Let's see if I can.
Yeah. Let me know when you're ready to resume.
I don't know if I know how. Oh,
I think, yeah, you would just need to disable in the settings, I believe. Perfect.
I think I got it.
Okay. All right. Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry for the intermission there. We just disabled the vibration feature on Bronson's phone to make it smoother for you guys. But to pick up where we left off, we were talking about how, this is what Bronson went through is a very common thing that people go through in the program. And we're going to talk more about this later on. But in our videos, we always say the answers in life are never in the extremes in life. It's always in the balance of things, right? So A lot of people, when they're faced with divorce, for example, they go from complete indifference into complete need, right? So in the needy part, they focus on all these tactics to try to appear like they have changed. They realize the tactics don't work because your partner will never believe it anyway. When the tactics don't work, you get upset internally. You get like, well, fuck her, whatever it is. And you go to complete indifference. Like, I don't need her. But when you go to complete indifference, you are also trying to create an effect in a way. You're not indifferent, you're fake indifference. You actually care because you're indifferent so that you are playing no contact, for example, because you want her to miss you, for example. But then you realize that the indifference doesn't actually do anything too. Then you go back to need. And this cycle is just like you're going from one extreme to the other, and both answers are wrong. And it just, your partner looks at you in this state, and it's like, dude, I lost even more respect for you right now. And I think that's what happened too. There's like this swing, and nobody can really get to the middle place of want and wanting again. And something we're going to talk about later. But eventually you found that place of want. And I think that's when things began to really turn around for you guys. But I guess tell us in the beginning too,
Yeah.
how bad was the resistance? Because I remember when you first joined, I think you were saying that there was zero contact. There was stonewalling, complete stonewalling. And whenever you even try to say something, you're basically sending messages, sending videos to avoid, to a black hole, it seems like.
Yeah, no, I talked to a member, and it is like I'm in a sci-fi movie and I'm sending messages into outer space, and I won't hear back from the person that I'm trying to talk to like a couple days later. It's a very weird experience. Yeah, I realized like for 3 or 4 months after we're going through all this conflict that I'm like, okay, my intentions are, I do want to make this work. I just don't know how. And I need to understand like myself better a little bit too. Like I realized like I had the will, but I didn't have the skills or the path, or I needed some guidance. And all the guidance I was getting was terrible. I remember I was sitting in our only couples counseling therapy that my spouse would agree to. This was after she told me she was done. And I realized like in that moment that what I'm going through, I have no idea how I got here. And I could create a relationship in the future, and I would end back in the same position like 10 years from now, because I had no understanding of the events or processes that led me to where it caught me. So
yeah. And I want to talk about that in a bit too. That's what we call like the 4 levels of success, right? The different levels of success. Yeah. I want to touch on that in a bit too. Okay, so we have, I think, a clear picture of where you were, right? Your partner was basically had zero safety, felt pretty depressed, felt disenchanted, didn't respect you anymore, didn't love you anymore, out. Stonewalled. Whenever you tried to initiate any contact, it was just avoid. A lot of people would say, dude, just give up. And I think your parents and your family was saying, dude, just give up, because I don't think this is worth it. I guess paint a picture now. Obviously, you're not fully reconciled yet, and that's not the point anyway, right?
Yeah.
But you're in the middle of a journey. Paint us a picture of what it's like now.
Yeah, I guess yeah, where I'm at is like I'm more excited and interested about just creating meaningful relationships where I can have them, like in my family and in my friends, and meeting new people. And I just really enjoy creating this new person, this new Bronson. Like that's where I am currently. And I feel like I'm not done yet. Like I have, like, there's just like construction equipment everywhere. Like this room, like you can't see it, but there's just like stuff all over the walls about,
feel free to tilt the camera.
Yeah,
show us
like
that. I love that.
I printed out like slides, like it's a
From the
huge
program.
wall. Like I'm in like here's my role models that like I look up to and I try to emulate.
Yeah.
This is really just a huge construction zone that you guys are in right now.
Yeah.
And
Self-construction. And what's funny also is, I think you were mentioning before this call, we were having a quick chat about how things are like with your relationship as well. And you mentioned too that at first you were sending these videos, you were sending this text, and she wasn't responding. But then eventually, I think, but I think you noticed also that she was definitely watching them. She was definitely listening to them. She was definitely reading them. And eventually, it got to the point where she actually started to contact you back as well.
yeah,
But when she contacted you back, she was saying to you, I don't feel comfortable with this still. I don't feel comfortable talking to you. I don't want to feel anything for you. And I think it's gone to the point now where it's evolved to where the conversations have become a lot more comfortable. She's even curious about your changes in the program, what changes you're making. So she's kind of looking at you with a much more closer eye, magnifying glass to see, is Bronson really different or no? And she's a lot more curious there. She's leaning in. Am I incorrect in any of this from
no,
summarizing?
it's yeah, no, it's very true. It's just like she's starting to yeah, she's starting to peak more. Like she's like, I don't know what he's up to. Like I don't know. Yeah, she's very a lot more relaxed. Like her energy level, she's been so exhausted whenever I communicate with her.
Yeah, because
It's just emotionally
and this is amazing
draining.
too, considering that both of you in the military, and now there's a freaking war going on, and the fact
Yeah,
that like right now, I think we're both saying maybe reconciling in the relationship is not the biggest deal right now. There's a freaking war going on, okay? But the very fact that she's now coming to you despite the war going on and communicating with you, I don't think we can underestimate just how massive that is, given
yeah,
that how things were like 4, 5, 6 months ago, kind of thing. Um,
yeah,
and this is actually the journey that I think everybody goes through. People often think that reconciliation is this very smooth uphill march to reconciliation. It's not like that. It starts with something really bad, what you think is the worst situation possible. And then you go through this dip. And this dip is what we call the paradox of change. Why does this paradox of change come? This is the first point I want people to take away from is this paradox of change must exist. This dip must exist. And this dip exists because, before your partner says, I want to pull the plug from this relationship, you have probably made a lot of promises to change, that things will be better. They've
yeah,
probably fantasized a lot of promises that you will do better, but it never happens. So in essence, you become the boy who cries wolf a bit, where she's heard everything that you're going to say. She sees everything you're going to do. And she's convinced now the reason why I want to leave is that not only are things shitty, but there is no hope for anything in the future. This guy cannot change. Nothing can change, right? Just having a bad relationship itself is not going to make people leave. It's the hopelessness tacked onto that. And the hopelessness is caused by the fact that they don't think you can change. So
yeah,
when you finally change and they're leaning into you again, the first thing they're going to think about is, okay, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on, fool me once, shame on you, right? Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 20 times, fucking shame on me, right? So before I can trust this person again, I better make sure, 100% sure that this guy is real, that these changes are legit, that they're forever, that when I do come back, that he's going to stay this new self forever. And to do that, she knows that what you do during the easy times can be faked, right? But what you do when things are uncertain, when things are hopeless, when there is really no clear motivator behind why you should keep your changes, that's when she will really see, are the changes for real or not? If you give up during this stage, the dip, the paradox of change, and you say, well, if my partner says it's hopeless, I'm going to forget it then.
yeah,
Then that just shows your partner, one, that your intentions weren't genuine. You were doing this just to get her back. You're motivated to get her back. And once you get her back, probably you'll stop.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing too is it's not just about this black and white decision of do I keep going or not, right? If you keep going, but your partner can sense here that you don't actually enjoy your changes, the process of your changes, and you are doing your changes with a smile through the dip, that will show her also that if he doesn't enjoy the changes, he will never keep it forever. Right. So these moments right here, this is key. And after you go through the process of change, that's when people start to believe your changes. And if you look at any of my client stories, it's the same trajectory, same exact trajectory. This is the dip that nobody talks about, which is a shame, right? But this dip is progress.
No, I am loving the moment that I'm in. Like I just enjoy, like it happened about 3 weeks ago where it really settled in. I'm like, I really love who I'm becoming. And like, I want, it just feels, I just feel so much better and I want to keep pushing myself. And I just feel like I know I'm going to be okay regardless of what happens. Like I want this thing, but like I am really happy right now. Actually, I do, I do enjoy my life. I do enjoy the little things. I enjoy talking with people in the Facebook group. I enjoy learning the program. I enjoy the spontaneous conversations I have with people at work or in my social life. And like the when they feel understood, that look on their face is like one of the most incredible feelings I've ever had. Like that I really haven't experienced my entire life. And
yeah, so let's talk about that a bit, about this
yeah,
ability to create safety, this radical sense of safety, right? Because this safety that you create is not only, you only witness this in your partner, but also you witness this when you talk to your parents, your colleagues, other members, your friends, whatever it is, right? And safety, I always get this question. Well, does your program work for women too? Or like for my case, whatever it is? It's like the answer is always yes. Again, no situation is unique because no matter who you are, no matter what culture you're in, no matter what race you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what occupation you have, humans want emotional safety. Humans want to feel seen and heard. Humans want to feel like they're a part of this, they're living in the same plane of reality as other human beings, that they're understood.
Yeah.
So this skill is a universal skill that you just can apply to everywhere. And like, just talk about, I guess, go deeper into when you said the first time you watch someone, just when they feel so understood, and they probably have never felt that understood ever in their life by anyone, or for a long time, for decades even sometimes. And you were the one who was able to understand them on that deep level and create that safety with them. Describe that.
It's just so, like we're always trying to fix or give advice for people's problems, but if you can just listen to someone and articulate deeper than what they realize they were feeling in themselves, and there's this, and you're not even giving advice, you're just like, is this what you're going through? And you break it down in an analogy or a feeling, that there's this moment where they just like exhale and they just feel like this relief, like if that it's like years of like pent up feelings that they've had, that I don't even know how to explain it. It's I don't know, it's the most wonderful feeling to be able to share that with and observe that in a person, because it is very rare in life where, I mean, we are kind of trapped, we're trapped in our minds a bit, and when there's someone outside of us who can like articulate what we're going through better than even we understand, that is a miracle in and of itself. So when people do that to me, I it's very profound. And like, I never remember the things that I do with people, but I always remember how they made me feel in the past, like my coworkers. And so like, there are people in my life that have made me feel like truly understood. And now that I'm kind of learning that process of being able to do that back to people, it is truly addictive. And like, I love it. So I
Yeah.
don't know if any of that made sense,
It
but
makes so much sense. And I think it's so hard to articulate this because I don't think a lot of people have experienced what we have experienced, which is, you know, we see so many stories in the program about people having conversations with strangers, having conversations with new partners or their existing partner, for example, having conversations with even colleagues or their boss sometimes. And as they're going deeper with the frameworks, with the internal shifts and just deep curiosity, deep empatheticness, people cry. Like the person they're talking to actually cries because
I cry sometimes.
you cry.
Like
And yeah, because, in our lives, right? Nobody really gets the opportunity to actually express themselves, to actually feel understood. Think about, for example, at work. Nobody really gives a shit about you. It's just about people give a crap about only the product of your thoughts. Oh, this is your thoughts. This is your ideas. This is your opinions. But nobody cares about all the underlying things that lead to those thoughts, all your life's history, and it's not because people are mean or whatever it is, because either people don't know how, or they don't have the resources, the time resources, or the energy resources to actually dig deeper into that. But so once people feel this deep ability to be able to feel deeply understood like that, I mean, you're pulling on someone's heartstrings. And this applies to whether you're talking about romantic relationships, friendships with your children, whatever it is. If you have that skill, my God, like you are creating this bond that is unbreakable with someone, right? And it's really hard to articulate what that feels like.
Yeah.
Because probably we've never felt that. Nobody has ever done that to us before. Because the skill is so rare, right? And it's part of what we say when we say you become this irreplaceable man. That's what we want. We want for you to be able to create this connection so deep, emotional connection so deep that people literally cry when they talk to you in a good way, in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Right. So I think if you look at how you went from complete stonewalling into where you are now, this is a massive, massive part of it. Is your massive part of it is your ability to be able to just make people feel seen, heard, and comfortable around you. That trust is no longer like out of, hey, trust me, like you're telling people to trust you, is that people cannot help but trust you and feel drawn to that,
Yeah.
So that's the first takeaway I want people to have, is like understanding that there's such a much higher level to what it means to create safety, that when you understand this, it doesn't really matter what situation you started out from, what your partner is saying about you right now, right? I mean, this is like moth to flames. Like people just gravitate towards that because it's so hard to find anywhere else. But the second thing I want to talk about too is something you mentioned earlier about this feeling of satisfaction and enjoyment for the process itself. And that that with the process, everything's going to be okay, right? It's interesting because in our program, we divide the level of success into 4 different levels. The lowest level is what we call failure's failure. This is where you were in the beginning, when you said basically, I don't even know how I got here. This really bad situation I'm in, I don't even know. So you're failing in your outcome and you don't even know how you failed. And if you don't know how you failed, you have no idea how to unfail, how to get successful again. Right? It's like you don't even know what led to the breakdown in the first place. So most people start out there. That's the worst feeling to be in. Then the second level is what we call failure success. This is when you're starting to get some outcomes your way, but you're still not sure what process led to those outcomes. This is also a really bad kind of success, because if you ask a lot of entrepreneurs, for example, who don't really know how their business got successful, they can't sleep at night because they don't know, well, I don't know what factors made it successful. I don't know what's going to make it fail. I don't know if it's going to be there tomorrow. Same thing with your relationship. I think a lot of people feel this. oh, my partner's talking to me today, but she might not talk to me tomorrow.
Yeah, it's almost, it causes more anxiety for me than you don't even know why you're failing. That feels better than failure or success failure.
Yeah, or like failure success. Yeah. Then we have level
success.
2. We have level 2. So level 0 is failure. Level 1 is failure success. Level 2 is successful failure. This is when you start to actually do the process. You start making mistakes, but you learn from those mistakes. So it's a failure, but it's a successful failure because you're learning from it. And eventually you get to the successful success. This is when you're starting to get the outcomes you want, and you know exactly what you're doing to manufacture that outcome. It's almost like driving a car. You have the steering wheel. When you go from point A to point B, you don't go, oh my God, I don't know how I got here without crashing. That's fucking miracle, right? It's like, no, you were turning and weaving and avoiding hazards here and there, right? You were driving the ship. And I think it feels the same way right now. I guess tell me what that means like for you, because I think you're pretty close to actually getting to that successful success stage right now.
Yeah, I think I'm like straddling it. Like I feel I kind of want to fail more. Like I'm kind of like, again, I'm not like, I feel like I'm not a finished product. I want to keep getting, I don't know. I don't want to put a ceiling on myself. So I want to keep seeing failures so that, because I don't know where the end goal is. And I guess that's part of the not being focused on the outcome. But yeah, I just I've built this, because of the program. I feel like I've like built this like apparatus, this armor around myself that I can always rely on, and it doesn't matter what people are saying or doing or how they're acting. Like I'm just like, all right, it doesn't, like I can push through any resistance as long as I stick to the processes that work. And that is an incredibly liberating feeling, to not be tied to outcomes in general. At least where I am currently. I do want outcomes, but yeah, I want to focus 95% of my energy just on the processes and getting excited about that. And that's just, I mean, I knew in my mind like that makes sense, but actually doing it, actually putting my words into actions, this program did that for me. And another thing is, I've only ever had success when people pushed me hard, like in my life. And like what I like about this program is it demands excellence of me. Like it doesn't matter what you think you are. The program's like, no, you will be excellent. You like it's like breathing life into me. Like and yeah, I'm incredibly grateful, because it demands greatness of me, and it like makes me be great.
Yeah.
And it's a simple program. It's not easy, but it's simple, and that's what I like about it. So
if I can kind of put some words in your mouth too, of because we have a lot of members now, and they all kind of have the same stories at the end of the day. I think when I look at the people who become very addicted to the process, I think it's a 2-stage thing for people.
Okay.
The one is, so the best way is, I'm sure you heard me give this analogy before, of the giant ice cube analogy, right? So imagine you're standing in the middle of a room with a giant ice cube inside. And this room is like -10 Celsius, below freezing point. And your goal is to melt this massive ice block. But all you have is just this tiny hair dryer that expels heat, So you plug that in and you start to point the hair dryer in the room. The room slowly becomes -10, -9, -8. But you don't see this ice melting. It's still below freezing point. But because you know the principles of how ice melts, of how the hair dryer works, how heat gets distributed, you know that if you just keep doing this, Even though you're not seeing the ice melting, you know the ice will eventually melt because you know that principally you're doing the right things. And I think often when people go into the program and they see a lot of success from other people in worse situations than they're in, they built this trust to the principles. They understand the principles and they built this trust to be like, dude, I got this, right? What I'm facing is exactly what's outlined. All these paradigms of change things I'm getting is exactly as outlined. This is part of the plan. This is progress. This is not unique. And so I think also you start to see evidence of your processes in your own life too. So, for example, when you talk to your parents, when you talk to your friends, when you talk to your partner right now, you get a lot of evidence to say, shit, if I just do X and Y and Z, this happens. Safety gets created. She opens up. She becomes more comfortable around me, right? I become someone who is actually a joy to be around, and I can see in their face. And all these micro wins, it just fuels your trust in the process and your enjoyment to the process, allows you to surrender to the process a lot more. And this becomes like a fun game eventually, where you know, like, if I just do XYZ, I win. When in life do you actually get a guarantee like that?
Yeah.
And that becomes fun.
Like the other day, I had a negative emotion that came up. And in this program, you're supposed to log and keep track of and document, your negative emotions so that you can actually address them. Well, I actually got excited that because I hadn't done that in a little while. Like I realized, like, why am I getting excited that I get to like write down this negative experience that I'm going through in my life? I'm like, that's when I'm like, all right, I'm a bit more different than I used to be, because I just, yeah, I enjoy these little processes that, are making me change and, feel better about my situation, helping me grow as a person. So
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's a little example of
It
that.
does. And it almost becomes like this process becomes your obsession. This process becomes the end goal in itself, the point. And the outcomes just come whenever they come. Like,
Yeah.
I think when your partner opened up finally, I think you're like, oh, it came. You weren't thinking about, like, you weren't asking the whole time on that journey, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? You're just going like, no, the fun part is the process. As the
Yeah.
outcome comes, I'm like, oh, I'm surprised by it. Cool. And who knows, later on, you just keep getting more surprised by new outcomes and better outcomes. But no matter what, your dedication, your focus on the process never changes. And that's the beautiful part.
Yeah.
I guess my next question to you too is, so your partner, she stonewalled you, right? She wanted to quit on the relationship. A lot of people, a lot of men especially would say, why even fight for that relationship? Why even bother being with someone who doesn't even want you? What's your reason for wanting to go through this change, wanting to go through this journey in self-development, which is uncomfortable, which is painful? What's your
Yeah.
motivation for wanting to get your partner back?
Yeah. I did bring this up earlier, but I realized that if if it doesn't work out with my spouse, I end up finding someone new. This is before I was in the program. I realized I would end up in the same position again because I had no idea how I got here. And um, so I realized I can be happy with anyone, um, as long as I work at it, because everything takes work. So I realized, like, I do want my partner. I do want to come from a place of want, and she is a wonderful person. So yeah, I realized that I needed to make changes in myself first, uh, and that I could be happy with anyone, but and because I knew that, like, I could eventually make things work with my spouse, even if like it looks bad from the outside. I was like, as long as I change myself and I stick to the processes, I can be happy with anyone, even a person who you know, I've done damage to in the past, that may seem like irreconcilable. So I don't know, maybe that was a little jumbled, but I don't know if
No,
that
I
resonated with
totally, it totally makes sense to me. And I think, what I'm trying to do now is kind of paraphrase you and make you feel understood, because
yeah.
I was in the same position too. I think so. My story was, before I met my current partner, I had a string of very bad relationships, and bad relationships meaning that people would leave, people would cheat on me, right? Uh, and I always felt kind of betrayed. I always played the victim. I always said like, "Fuck them," you know. If they can't take me at my worst, they don't deserve me at my best. I said that. If they can't be with me for the tough times, then they don't deserve to be with me. And then I told myself all these narratives of, if they can't be loyal to me, if they can't be whatever, then screw them. It's their loss. And I played all these narratives to tell myself how much of a catch I was, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But eventually I realized that, okay, after like 4 or 5 rounds of this, is it really other people or is it me? And then there was this one last breakup that I had where I told myself, you know what, whatever, I'm just going to create a great relationship somewhere else. And I realized, I don't know. I don't actually know how to do that. I have this vague idea of what it means to have a great relationship, but I don't think I actually have a good idea around that. And and I look at the reasons of why, like all the complaints people had about me. I'm like, I'm probably going to repeat the same things. I mean, like legit, I would not be in a relationship with me. So that humility needs to come first. That humility of like, maybe this is me. Maybe I'm missing something. Once you have that humility and you realize what you're missing, you can't really look back. Like you can't really live life knowing what you know about what you lack and just be oblivious to that anymore. You're just like, you can't unknow that anymore. And I think once you can unknow that, it switches your mode completely to the point where now you're going, you know what? I don't really care about relationships anymore, right? I just want to become the best version of myself, improve on all these flaws so that I can be a good asset in a relationship. So it's a thought of like, I'm not gonna even desire a relationship until I fix myself here. Because the analogy I often give is, before you seek the glory and the fame, if you're an athlete, for example, work on your game. Work on your game in secret, in silence. Don't keep asking every day, well, do I have my glory yet? Should I be looking for my glory right now? Should I be playing some games? Should I be playing whatever? It's like, dude, relax. Work on yourself first. Make yourself an asset first. And so I think this doesn't really become a journey about getting your partner back. This becomes a journey of, how do I get myself back? And if I get myself back, then yeah, my partner will come back. Then yeah, someone else, I will meet someone else. But without this, nothing else happens.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Yeah, just realizing that like I want my partner back, but I know I'm going to be happy and I'm going to make the people in my life happy. That is an incredibly powerful experience and feeling to have that self-worth. Yeah, that is a beautiful thing. That is what's incredible. That is like, yeah, chef's kiss right there. So
yeah. It's like, I had this quote that I thought of like recently. I said, if you master an outcome, you get one win, right? If you master the tactics to get one outcome, you get one win. If you master the processes, you get unlimited wins. You can create wins wherever you go. And that's what you want. Like, you want the process more than the outcome, which is the beautiful thing.
I like that now. That's good.
Yeah. So, we talk a lot about Also, in the beginning, you said there was this part of you that actually resisted change for the longest time as well, where your partner gave you all the clues as to this is something wrong with the relationship. This is something we need to work on. And I think on the back of your head, you knew you needed to do something, but you still didn't take action. You still didn't go in and go like, let me work on myself here. What was that resistance for you in the beginning?
It came from maybe an arrogance that, in a belief that like my partner would always like love me unconditionally. Well, not that like, no, she loves me, but it's like I had this arrogance that like it doesn't matter what I do, like she'll always love me. And because I had that mindset, it it made her feel awful. Like it created this environment where like the one life that she has, she's living it with a person who like doesn't think that like she's the most special person in the world. And you know, if I was living with someone like that, like that would be awful. So it came from this place of arrogance that I had. And you know, I think that's like the fundamental change is like that I'm not special, and that like living with someone who thinks that they're special sucks sometimes. Like all the time. I don't know if that I think if I could label maybe the crux of it, I think that's the change that I needed to work on, is that I need to I'm not special, and like I'm not different than other people, and I need to embrace that and you know, work with people. So yeah, I don't know. What do
Yeah,
you think
the
about
way
that?
I see this, because my philosophy as a relationship has changed quite drastically too. You know, people often mention this thing called unconditional love, and they always, you know, I think when people say it, what they want to say is, I give people unconditional love. I think that's what the noble way of saying it. But I think what people are really saying is, I expect unconditional love from other people, right? And if you expect unconditional love, like other people giving you unconditional love, because like if you look at your behavior, for example, in the past, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, is when we talk about unconditional love, we say things like what I said: if you can't take me at my worst, don't deserve me at my best, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then I never asked myself, like, well, if I'm just saying I accept that I'm at my worst and I expect people to accept that, am I really giving people unconditional love? No, I'm not giving people any love, but I expect people to love me despite that. That's a very lazy thing to do. That's a very convenient way to give yourself a lot of excuses. And I think what you're saying is like, to be in a relationship with someone like that, where they don't actually care about giving love, but only receiving love, no matter what, is very exhausting. It's very paralyzing. It's very demeaning. And in a modern relationship, that doesn't cut it anymore, right? Your partner has options. She will bounce as soon as possible. And I think the other thing too,
cool.
so like that's my initial interpretation of it, right? Until I realized like, oh shit, that's so messed up. If you think about it, that's really, really messed up. That's very one-sided. That's very selfish. Now, my interpretation is, you know, my partner is a very beautiful person, right? She's wealthy. She's a catch in every way. She has very high clout in her career. A lot of men ask her out all the time whenever she goes to conferences and like tries to hit on her or whatever, right? I realized that the threat of your partner leaving, the threat of them going away will always be there if your partner is really a catch. So you can try to fake your changes, to try to manipulate her into staying with you, to try to like control her. A lot of men do this by like suppressing, like, you know how Kim Jong-un, right, North Korea, he does this. He suppresses knowledge from his people so that they don't know how to rebel. They don't know anything better. And a lot of men do this. They take away finances. They take away rights. They place controls and restrictions so they can't meet other men, whatever it is. Right? That's really messed up, right? And in a modern relationship, if your partner is a catch, they will go. They will leave eventually when they can. So this is just false sense of control. You cannot escape the work of becoming irreplaceable at the end of the day. Because the only way you can stop sleeping with one eye open is if you grow yourself to become irreplaceable and you can provide unconditionally the high level values, the irreplaceable values in a relationship, like emotional safety, to the point where your partner actually wants to be with you, wants to be there. That despite other men hitting on her, whatever it is, I know that my partner eventually will come back to me, or she'll choose me. That's true power. That's true security in a relationship. Right? Yeah. So this is a philosophy where it's not about you accept me and I accept you. It's I will become the best of myself for you and you become the best, which inspires you to become the best for me. It's a much more empowering way to live. Not, I'm going to be who I am. You be who you are. I will accept you for who you are with all your flaws and your messed upness and your quirks and whatever it is. And you accept me for all my messed upness and my quirks. That's a terrible relationship. Both people should be going, I want to become the best for me and also for you. And you become the best for me as well. But in this relationship, like a lot of people will say, for example, well, what if my partner doesn't want to be the best for me? No, the natural artifact of you becoming irreplaceable. And when you become irreplaceable, you become someone people don't want to lose. Okay. And if you really become someone who people don't want to lose, your partner will come back, will want to be the best. Imagine if you were asked out for lunch right now by your biggest hero that you freaking admire. You could be tired. You could be lazy. You will go to that bathroom, gussy up, dress your best, and fucking show up as your best. That's the power of creating this admiration by growing yourself first. So if you're saying right now, well, my partner doesn't want to be the best for me, ask yourself, well, are you starting it? Are you actually irreplaceable? If you're not, don't expect her to. Right? Good is not enough. You have to be great. And that's how I live my life. You know, that's how I see relationships. This is about me. This is about my journey of growth. If I take care of my journey of growth and I become irreplaceable in an objective way, everything takes care of itself.
No, that's good. Yeah. I mean, if you can't expect to change yourself and to better yourself, like, and that's hard enough. Like, why do you demand change or excellent, you know, or like unconditional love when you can't even give the same?
Yeah.
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 That was very good. That was very good.
Good. Glad I opened your eyes in some way. I want to spend the rest of the time here talking about your experience in the program a bit, because so obviously you found me through YouTube in the beginning. When you first, like, you know, because the YouTube videos, the way they're structured is very different to how the program is structured. The program is a lot richer, it's a lot more intense in terms of like making your internal shifts, and it's rich of material too. Was that like a culture shock for you going into the program and seeing all these people playing at a very high level? The amount of material there was, the amount of depth that we go into. Tell me your thoughts in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I knew immediately, like, I am actually going to change if I embrace this. This, you know, when you're trying to make changes and you're only doing something once a week for maybe an hour, I it never lasts, it never changes, you never make it a habit. But this program, it surrounds you from all sides at every angle to help you actually move, to take action, um to you know, and it's very specific on like what you can do. It breaks things down scientifically, which I love. There's nothing nebulous or vague about how to, for example, reinterpret negative thoughts or feelings to positive feelings. Like, it's a very scientific process that if you just do the work, you start seeing results. And that blew my mind that you could actually do that. But the fact that there's a Facebook group where people are communicating, talking, sharing their stories is incredible, because it just shows that you are not special, and that there's nothing new under the sun. Like, you think that your situation is unique. Like, I thought my situation was unique. I was flying in an airplane 4,000 miles away from my wife after things weren't working out. I'm like, there's no way that like I could fix this. But just communicating and talking to other people, I realized like that's not even bad at all. Like 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 there's just everything, the processes to change are the same regardless of the circumstances. And like, I just know that now because of the Facebook group, and just surrounding yourself by it. So that's one thing I like, is the community. The community is a huge force multiplier in the program.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. You know, what's interesting too, I don't want to interrupt you and lose your thought, but so hold that thought.
Yeah.
But like, something that's interesting too is, we right now have like 43 published testimonials, interviews like this. And by the time this publishes, probably we're at 50 at that point, right?
Yeah.
And all those 50, and people never realize this, all those 50 people, they started out in very, very different and very dire situations in a very different way. And they all started out thinking their situation unique. But if you look at their interviews, if you look at the takeaways, you realize that it's the same takeaways over and over and over again. The process is always the same. You got to stop playing victim. You got to untether. You got to build your bulletproof vest. You got to master the frameworks. Use that to create safety, to create admiration, to create goal alignment, create sexual passion. No matter what your problem is, it's the same formula. I'm not saying like your situation is not unique. I'm just saying the solution is not unique. And if the solution is not unique, who gives a shit if the situation is unique? It's like, if you have this one pill that can cure cancer, that can cure tuberculosis, that can cure whatever. This is the one pill that will cure every single sickness that you can possibly find. Why spend money diagnosing yourself? Just take the pill. Doesn't matter what you have, right? Yeah. Doesn't matter if you have cancer or whatever. Just take the pill. You'll be fine.
But that's not true for this program either. You do the program, the modules, the lessons, they do explain in incredible detail
why it would work.
Why the pill works.
Yeah.
It's like, it explains in detail like why you're in the situation you did, the things you did to cause that. But not only does it diagnose you, but the very rare thing is it gives you a treatment, which is very rare, I feel like, anywhere. You go to therapists and they will tell you have cancer, and then they'll just be like, yeah, you have cancer, and they'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's like, go drink more water, go sleep better, go journal, and they'll be fine. Just keep paying me money.
Let's see if I can explain this well. But another problem is when people are like, hey, I went through what you're going through, and like, this is what I did, and everything was okay. but I realized like just because someone went through an experience doesn't mean that they actually know um, why they went through that experience and how to get through it.
No, I fucking love that. It's like the people in YouTube comments or whatever. It's like, you know what? I had a wife who was a stonewaller, and I divorced the hell out of her. It's like, and then they say, trust me, guys. The only thing you can do is divorce your partner. If they stonewall you, divorce your partner. I'm like, dude, being with a person who stonewalled you doesn't qualify you to give advice on how to treat stonewalling.
Yeah.
Right? Like you failed. If you fail, don't give advice. You're divorced. And if you want to not get divorced, then don't listen to people like that. It's like sometimes like entrepreneurs do this too. Yeah, I've been through like I started 3 businesses and I failed on all three. It's like if you did that, no, you should not be giving advice about business.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter if you tried. Same thing here. Like if you were not able to create a good relationship, the fact that you went through divorce, the fact that you went through like a toxic relationship does not qualify you to teach someone on how to deal with their toxic relationship because you failed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, your life experience doesn't prove whether you're successful. Like your processes, regardless of if you've gone through a thing or not, are what going to determine if you're successful or not.
Yeah.
Like I was in the military, and there are combat veterans who have been through combat, and then there are people who haven't yet. But the processes to succeed through combat, if you have the right ones, it doesn't matter what your experience was. The processes to success, to survival, to thriving in my example, a military, like a war zone, the training is the same. And your life experience, while it could be helpful, you want to surround yourself with winners and the processes to create winners. And just because you went through something like we just talked about doesn't mean that you understand how to get through it. So.
How to get through it. Yeah. But here's something I know, and I'll close with this one. I've done this with Jason Newman. I've done this with David Duran. I've done this with so many people, so many of the success interviews that we have. I know my process 100%. I know it. And I know it when people are following the processes. Let me just stake my claim and stake my guarantee and stake my just promise right now. Like if you keep doing this, we're going to follow up within 3 months to 6 months time, another interview where we're going to see outcomes beyond your imagination. Yeah. And that's how confident I am of the processes. And I've never been wrong once. Never been wrong once. So keep going. Keep loving the process. Keep being your becoming self. Keep being you. And guys, if you're listening to this interview, I hope this was helpful for you to give you a very honest look into what it's like in the beginning and what's like in the middle, and that the processes don't change. And this is the level of love in the process, the intrinsic love in the process that you need to get to if you want to ever reconcile. Because if you don't have this intrinsic love for the process, this level, your partner will always can sniff that your changes are fake. Your changes can never be permanent. So what's funny is like if you are doing the process to get an outcome, ironically, most likely you will never get the outcome. But if you can do the process without expecting an outcome and love the process in itself, that's ironically when you get the outcome. Remember that, guys, right? So if you want to really see what Bronson's talking about here with the community, the program, and the level of conviction here that Bronson has for the processes and the level of enjoyment he has for the process as well, and you want that for yourself, and you want to just transform your life for the better forever, regardless of what happens with your relationship, check out the link down below. We have a masterclass. It's about an hour and a half long. At the end of the masterclass, during the masterclass, we'll show you exactly the process that we have to get people from point A to point B, and from very dire to very hopeful all the time without fail. And at the end of the masterclass, we'll show you ways to apply for the program if you are interested in joining. pay attention to the application process. We only take in less than 10% of applicants. So treat it like you would apply for like a job interview or like your prestigious university. Don't take it lightly. Other than that, guys, I'll leave you with that. I know it's over an hour now, but I hope to see a lot of your applications and hope to see a lot of you in the program as well. Bronson, any final words of advice for people who maybe were where you were, where your partner's stonewalling them, people telling them that it's hopeless? Seems like the situation is very hopeless. What would you say?
No, to change the world, you need to change yourself, I feel like. And no, I just being able to create intrinsic value in yourself, and that's a huge thing, and it people notice it and people see those changes, and that's very empowering feeling, and that's what where I am right now on the program. And if you guys do end up joining, you'll see me in the Facebook group. You can talk to me anytime. So yeah, that's about it. That's about all I got. So, but I don't know. I feel like I've said everything I need to say. So
good. I want to end with one more thing too, which kind of popped to my mind earlier.
Yeah.
Guys, even if your partner is stonewalling you, she's watching you. She's watching you very closely. And I think in all my interviews with people who started out with stonewalling, like intense stonewalling, at the end, that's what they always say. Oh, my partner was watching the whole time. This wasn't just like being completely ignored. They were watching the whole time.
Yeah.
So don't let up, right? Don't waste that opportunity. Don't waste the pain. Do something out of it. Yeah. All right, Bronson, I'll leave you with that. Thank you for doing this. That was enjoyable.
Yeah. Thank you, Geoffrey. Yeah. That was wonderful.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Cheers. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it went okay. There are some times where I got sidetracked a little. I think you'd ask me a question, I'd go on a tangent a little bit. But you did
okay.
a good job explaining what I was trying to say. Yeah.
It's hard. These are hard things to explain.
And then and then I realized I'm not as clear on some things that I realized, me having to articulate, and I'm like, oh, okay, actually, maybe I don't have as clear of an understanding as I thought I did in some things. So.
Yeah. These are very hard things to articulate. The troubles you have in articulating what you understand is something I face quite a lot when I'm making the program too. Yeah. Which is why it takes so long to do the modules, because we're not explaining something that is technical. You can easily point to on a screen and say here's how you launch an email, or here's how you launch a Facebook ad, or whatever it is. Let me show you the technical sides of it. Right? Let me show you how to build this. This is showing you subconscious paradoxes, subconscious thoughts, subconscious experiences. That's hard, right? That's hard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Hopefully it was okay, and I love talking with you, so it's great. So to have this opportunity. So no, I'm loving where I'm at. I'm really enjoying hanging out with the group and everything, and going through the modules. It's been a real blessing. It's been like an obsession for me that I haven't had in a long time in my life. Good. It feels good to feel like I found something that I enjoy doing. So yeah.
Keep me updated on your progress in the relationship and outside of it as well. Processes too. But mark my words, 3 to 6 months, we're gonna have another chat. It's gonna be the chat we want.
I think so. And it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if that doesn't happen either. Processes are the same. So
doesn't matter. I mean, the thing is, if you become so replaceable, there's just no way. There's just zero chance. The outcome is not going to come. Zero chance. There's no freaking way. The skills we learn here are just going to make you so irreplaceable that it would take some ridiculous stubbornness on both sides. Either it's going to take you some intense, like just stubbornness in terms of looking at your own flaws and letting other people grade your homework to make sure that your changes are actually irreplaceable. Or you must have hurt your partner in a massively terrible way, which I don't think you did.
No. Yeah.
Or your partner meets someone in the program. Other than that, I just don't see it, man. I just don't see it.
I
Right.
haven't heard that one before. That's a good one. Watch out for other RR members. Yeah. Have you ever said that before? That's funny.
No,
like
I
that.
mean, I always think though, it's like unless someone's in this, because like we enroll a lot of very high caliber people here too, business leaders, etc. And even they often say, like, unless this person's been in the program, there's no way they can play a level. There's no freaking way.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the
That
conviction.
is how I
Like,
feel right now.
yeah, it's like there's no freaking way. Eventually you're gonna figure this out. Right. Eventually people are gonna figure out who I am. Eventually people are gonna catch up to who I am and what I can do and who I am now and how I think now and the value that I can provide. It's just a matter of time. Let people go through the process of change. Let people be suspicious. Let people question me. And as I ace all the questioning, all the suspicions, let them understand me. And that's how life goes. If you talk to David Duran, if you talk to any of the 43 or whoever, however many we're gonna have before this publishes, people who are reconciled, they'll say the exact same thing. There's just no friggin' way, right? In the beginning, you're always gonna have all these doubts of, am I good enough? Am I good enough? But you realize that if your goal is the perfection that we expect in a program, you can be fine.
Yeah, I can feel it. I can kind of smell it in the air.
You're already seeing the manifestations of it already in many areas of her life. That's just gonna keep compounding and compounding and compounding if you stay consistent. That's just the nature of life. Like what you're providing is something people do not get anywhere else.
Yeah. No. Yeah, dude, I believe it. Like I can see it. So yeah, it's fun. So
all right, Bronson. Have a good weekend, okay?
Hey, yeah, I will. Thanks, Geoffrey. You
all
too.
Right. Cheers. Bye.